Howdy folks, Zapper here, aka Sean, and I'm bringing you some next war global thermonuclear warfare. So yesterday I ended with a nuclear catastrophe that was or wasn't. So I conducted a nuclear strike. The North Koreans borrowed a nuclear weapon from China and decided to launch it at Seoul because that was the highest density of South Korean and U.S. forces. So, cut the head off of the snake, right? That was the whole idea. And of course, Seoul is a very highly populated area, although most of those people have probably left, refugees, they've probably fled south. So I'm sure, there were many, many, many casualties. So once you declare that you are going to set off a nuclear device, the other side has the option to set off a nuclear device as well. So each side, kind of alternates placing nuclear devices. So the Allies declined to place a device. Well, to roll for global thermonuclear war, let me just double check. Let me see if it's equal to or it is just less than. Less than or equal. So you count the number of devices in play and you roll a die, and if you roll less than or equal, then it's global nuclear war. I had one device in play and I just happened to roll a 1. Chemical weapons have also been used, so that gives you a -2 DRM. So I did roll a 1 with a -2, so that would have been a -1. So there was definitely global thermonuclear warfare. However, you roll on a table to find out what the effect of the device is. So on a 0 to 8, it's a full yield, and you apply those effects, right? Like units are reduced or eliminated, strike markers, that kind of thing. If you roll a 9, then there's a malfunction. I rolled a 9. Then you roll again. On the malfunction, there's not really a table, but you roll another die against the malfunction. If it's an even number, then the device functions as normal. If it's an odd number, then it's a complete malfunction and nothing happens. So I then rolled again and I rolled a 9. So it was a malfunction. The device didn't work. However, global nuclear warfare ensued, even though the original device did not function as it was intended to function. So that's kind of where we're at, right? I decided, you know what? I'm not quite sure what to do. Technically, according to the rules of the game is over with because we have annihilated the world. We have cleansed the world in nuclear fire, right? So that was our COVID response, I guess. I don't know if that's a bad joke or not. But anyway, so I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to do a roll to see. Let's pretend that the bomb did go off, and let's pretend that we did not have all-out nuclear warfare. Let's just pretend, for the sake of argument, that this is the only bomb that went off in Seoul. Now you have to do a withdrawal check. So the Allied nations, we have to test their resolve to see if they're truly committed to fight to the bitter end. So I guess what we'll do is, so what I'm going to do is, this is kind of a mess over here, but these are the nations involved: Germany, France, Canada, Japan, Australia, the Philippines, South Korea, the U.S., and Vietnam. So I guess I'll just start rolling over here and see who withdraws from the fight. There we go. So we start with Germany. So on a 4 or more, 4 or higher, Germany will withdraw from the conflict. They've had enough, even though they didn't lose anybody here. So we'll see. So Germany stays. Now let's see what France does. France decides to stay. Canada's had enough. They're out. So Canada has decided that they are going to wave the white flag. Japan probably is going to stay in. I would imagine that Japan would stay in. Let's look and see what Japan does. Japan, they've had enough. Obviously, with history the way it is, Japan has seen this happen one other time before, or they have been the recipient, and they have decided, nope, not again. Australia stays. Obviously, South Korea. Well, South Korea could capitulate, honestly. So basically what we have left is we have the Philippines, Vietnam, South Korea, and the U.S. Let's see what the Philippines do. Philippines stay. Vietnam. Let's see if Vietnam gets scared into getting out. Vietnam is gone. So basically, because Vietnam is actually fighting right now, I guess they would surrender and let China do what they want. The U.S. So the U.S. is a 5 or more. Let's see what the U.S. does. The U.S. stays. And then South Korea. I would say South Korea because this is their home. Let's say on a 6 or higher. Okay, so South Korea stays. So it looks like we've had three countries have decided to withdraw. I would say that because Vietnam has withdrawn, they are surrendering. So China wins. China would win in the South Vietnam conflict. They have successfully invaded Vietnam and incorporated Vietnam into the People's Republic of China. And then it looks like, well, Canada's not really... Canada and Japan, you know, Canada doesn't matter that much because they're on the other side of the ocean. They've got an ocean separating them, so they are safe. And then Japan obviously has decided that they're done. So now the question is do I continue to play the game? So we've kind of seen how things play out. Maybe, you know, probably what I'll do is play another turn and then just kind of see what happens. So honestly though, another thing too, let me see. I think if the nations remain, so the intervention level, if anybody was affected by the attack, so the only units that were actually affected were U.S. and South Korean units. So like let's say that there was German units here. If there was a German unit that was caught in the nuclear blast, they would automatically go to intervention level 4. So the only people that were affected by it are already at intervention level 4. The people that stayed, the countries that have stayed increase their intervention levels by 2. So that means that Australia and France go to 4 and Germany goes to 3. So let's look here. So Australia, I don't want to put them in the bad guys spot. France goes there. And then Germany goes to 3. So intervention level 3 might as well be intervention level 4. So that's where we're at. It looks like we're going to be fighting the war on just 2 fronts now. And we've had a couple people exit the fray, and we've had, or a couple of nations have exited, said, nah, we've had enough. And some people have, or people, I keep saying people, some countries have doubled down. So there you have it. Let's see what happens with, where are we at? Let's see what happens with the Commonwealth. Well, when I say the Commonwealth, I mean the United Kingdom. The United Kingdom hasn't done anything. They have not been involved whatsoever. So we will say that on a 4 or higher, if a nation was involved, they would stay involved. So they haven't been involved at all. So let's say on a 4 or higher, the UK decides that they're going to get involved. So the UK is like, nah, we're not going to do it. So they are still remaining resolute and deciding that they're not going to get involved. So yeah, maybe I'll play another turn or two just to kind of see how this plays out. So I guess what I will do is I will finish the strike phase, because I never really got finished here with the strike phase, and we will go from there. All right, everybody, so I've continued the strike phase past the nuclear strike. Obviously, I did things kind of out of order. Normally, you're supposed to announce nuclear stuff at the nuclear strikes. Those are the very first things. So, obviously, things are kind of out of order. But whatever. It's when you're playing, sometimes you don't think about stuff like that, and it's my game. I can do what I want. I hate using that excuse, but so I continued. We've done airstrikes. So the North Koreans basically sent everything up. I did have, what did I do? I decided to nullify the Allies' AWACS advantage, because I figure a nuclear strike would throw the Allies into disarray quite a bit. So I nullified the Allies' AWACS advantage, and then I also temporarily lowered their detection track by 2, as if they were hit by a cyber attack, right? Because I think that if, a nuclear strike happened, whoever it happened to would be severely disorganized for a brief period of time until they could figure out what the heck is going on. So the North Koreans, knowing this, right, because they knew the strike was coming, they had all their... They launched a lot of strike bombers up. Not that they're very effective, but they launched what they had available and put it up there in the skies. So we're going to try to reduce this unit here, because we need to open up this pathway down the coast. SAM and AAA basically rendered this attack useless. SAM and AAA took out this Hind helicopter. Let's see what else. Basically, the North Koreans didn't have a lot of luck, despite the fact that the Allies were combat ineffective, at least for this particular point. These guys basically ineffective. They were going to strike that headquarters right there. They were able to hit these Marines that were here. And let me see, this strike here was ineffective. Again, H-5 bombers that were unable to do much of anything. The Allies also sent up a lot of aircraft, and they were significantly more successful. So we were able to hit these guys with the strike too. We're able to reduce this. These are motorized infantry from they're under the Pyongyang headquarters, or Pyongyang Corps headquarters, I think is what it is. Let me see if I can find them. No, I think they're buried underneath that, and I really don't feel like digging it out. But they see these guys trying to creep around to the south, right? So they basically hit them pretty good. And this is a significant amount of F-15s, right? They have a very good strike rating. So that's a lot of a lot of firepower that rained down on these guys, and that was pretty effective. So that might slow these guys down. They were trying to sneak around the southern entrance to Seoul. Let's see what else. Got to turn my viewer on so I can see. B-52 hit by SAM fire as usual. I tell you, my really powerful bombers, they tend to not fare well. They were able to. So this is the 425th headquarters. It's the headquarters for these guys. Put a strike on those guys, and that's pretty much it. Everybody sent up what they had, which wasn't quite as much as you would think, but you know, they're trying to keep a little bit of it in reserve for the combat phase as well. But yeah, the Allies were still relatively successful considering the event that just happened, and the North Koreans were relatively unsuccessful considering the event that just happened. So I think what is next, naval bombardment. There's no naval bombardment that's going to happen in this particular theater. Now I can allocate headquarters and artillery strikes, so I'll go ahead and see if anything's going to apply. There may be a few. For example, if there's a headquarters, I might try to hit that guy since he's already got a strike 2 on him. And then there's a couple of other cases where it might happen. Maybe that headquarters right there. If I have one, I don't know if I even have one. Well, that one. He might be the only one that can do it. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Nope, he's not. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Yeah, I think he's out of range. So it probably won't. Well, we do have the Supreme headquarters, which is, you know, you think about it, right? I guess you could consider this like a tactical nuke. Because if you think about it, a hex is 7.5 miles. So if we hit this hex, which is really hard to see because this thing covers up the whole hex, to the headquarters is about 15 miles away. I mean, I wouldn't want to be within 15 miles of a nuclear warhead going off, no matter what the size of it was. So who knows? Who knows how because there's a lot of headquarters right here. And that's part of the reason that North Korea decided to hit that spot, is there is a lot of U.S. units here and there are a lot of headquarters. And that's kind of why they said, hey, you know what? If we're going to do this, we're going to do this. And they did it. And technically the game ended, but, you know. I'll probably finish out this turn. So I'll finish out game turn. What are we on? I think it's game turn 7. So I'll at a minimum finish out game turn 7 before I decide to actually quit. Because technically, again, the world is a nuclear wasteland right now. But we're going to pretend that it's not. But this still did go off. So anyway, that's it for the strike phase. I'll be back in a bit. Alright folks, so I've wrapped up. What did I do? I did a couple headquarter strikes, and I think I was able to cause a step loss in the one unit. They had a strike 2 marker here. Other than that, they were pretty ineffective. I think I did one or two for the North Koreans and 1 or 2 for the Allies. So after the first strike phase, or the strike phase, is the supply phase. So I've kind of modified the nuke rules. So basically, the target hex, you can't trace line of communications through that hex at all. So line of communications is completely in that hex. But I've decided to extend it to a 1 hex radius all the way around. So basically, it's the target hex in every hex that's adjacent to it. So it's a total of 7 hexes that you can't have line of communications to. And so basically that's going to put most of these units out of supply, because all these urban hexes, they're knocked out, and then the road network, you can figure the road network's kind of destroyed, at least temporarily, right? It's going to, you know, within a couple of days they would probably have it fixed or usable to an extent, right? The engineers are really going to have to do their work. But so yeah, there's a lot of units here in or Allied units that are out of supply right now. Basically anything to the northeast of the blast and right next to the blast are pretty much out of supply. So basically it's going to be a retreat out of Seoul. And I also did, let me see here, I don't know, so I took my camera off the tripod. Can we see these guys here? Nope, those guys are not in the shot. So there was a supply depot here that I converted to MSUs. There was a supply depot here that I converted to MSUs so they can get out, right? They need to start getting over here, right? Because this is the main forces. Oh, I wonder if you can even hear that. My hand's covering the microphone. See, this is trying to do something different, right? Trying to do a handheld instead of using the tripod. Because, you know, I want to show off that glorious mushroom cloud token that I have. I've never used it before. I've had the thing for a couple of years, and this is the first time I've actually gotten a chance to use it. So, yeah, supply is done. And then I think what we're going to do is the basic movement and combat. So the North Koreans are going to get to go first and try to do as much as they possibly can. Most of the North Korean units are in supply now because they've gotten their supply network kind of up and running. It is a clear turn, so they can push supply ahead a lot farther. There's only, you know, like this unit here, just because he's like 1 hex too far. And then you've got this guy here only because there's a river right there with no bridges across it. So yeah, the Allies are really going to be in a tough spot now, especially with all these guys out of supply. They can defend normally at least, but yeah, it's going to be a big withdrawal to the south of Seoul, and that is not going to be a good thing. All right, everybody, it's the movement phase for the PLA. So the Chinese, or the PLA, the People's Liberation Army, has decided, yeah, they're basically just consolidating here. We were able to transport this 10th Brigade, 72nd Group Army. It was a contested move. They did take a strike, so they're in this port now. We moved some units over here to just kind of stop the 6th Corps from advancing. We took this city. I kind of avoided taking that city for a long time, but now I've decided to take that, or the PLA has decided to take that. And I don't think that the PLA is really going to do a lot of attacking, because I think it's going to be more of a delay type thing now, because they are going to lose the Taiwan Straits at the moment. So I think they just kind of have to hold what they got. It's going to be extremely difficult to get more follow-on troops onto the island of Taiwan. And they don't have air superiority. So now it's just postponing everything. It's postponing the inevitable invasion or reconquering. Well, I mean, it's not even reconquering, because it's not like the Chinese have actually conquered the island of Taiwan, but they hold a pretty good portion of it. So it's only a matter of time. So now it's just a delaying action. We'll go ahead and move Korean forces. So again, the Chinese, the PLA, and the plan, the People's Liberation Army Navy, is not going to do a lot, right? I don't think I'm going to have them attack. So we'll go over to Korea, move some units around there. We'll see what kind of advances the Koreans can make, and see if we can take advantage of the nuclear strike. All right, I have just conducted the Korean move, so obviously we have these guys that have kind of moved down the road. They're getting ready to start filling in down here. Just reposition some guys to try to take the, what is this? The 8th Corps. Try to take the 8th Corps out. Let's go ahead and... All right, we moved up the 5th Corps and the 3rd Corps. They're trying to move down around, what town is this? Wonju. 1U probably. It's probably 1U. So they're surrounding 1U. There is this 2 MSUs. It used to be a supply depot, but there's a headquarters there, a couple MSUs, so definitely want that. Looks like a city, and this might be, let's see if I can grab that there. Yep, there's an air base underneath that, so that would definitely be nice for the North Koreans to have. And then they started thinning the lines over here. These guys have kind of, can we even see that? I don't even know. Nope, cannot see that. Then we've started thinning the lines here because we know, right? We, as in the North Koreans, they know that the Allies have to fall back. They really don't have much of a choice. So they started thinning the lines here and started shifting guys, starting to move them to the east and the south. So that's pretty much what's happening. Am I going to do the combat phase with these guys? I don't know yet. I think I need to go for a run, like in real life, go for a run. So, I'll think about it. What we have here is a very interesting development. So I've started doing the North Koreans combat phase. So these headquarters here, there's 2 headquarters here. So these guys, their subordinate units are all gone. So they're basically just kind of hanging out. They were here, so I conducted that combat. Let's see here. These guys took a step loss. These guys took a step loss and had to retreat. So I've done that. So the interesting development is in this hex right here. So this hex is overstacked. So I believe there are, well, I don't remember. So that's 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 stacking points. So you lose 1 ER for everything in excess. So that would be 5. So the normal stacking limit is 4, unless it's a mountain, then it's 3. So that means it's -5 efficiency rating. You can only go to, I mean, the minimum is 1. So these guys have an ER of 1, and then you can only defend with 4 stacking points. So that guy is 3 stacking points with 5 defense. This guy is 2 stacking points with 8 defense. So I'm going to choose him, and then, I can only do 1 MSU. I was doing 2 MSUs, so that would be, looks like 9. All right, so 9 defense. Let me change that. Actually, let me see. I supported it with headquarters, so that's 13. So honestly, it doesn't change anything. Changes nothing. I would have to get up to 39 to get 3-to-1. I can't get 3-to-1, but I can get 2-to-1, but I have +4 column shifts. So the DPR, the North Koreans are pretty much out of, they have a little bit of air support, not much. I really don't think I'm going to use any. We'll probably save it for stuff that's over to the west. So that puts us at, so we're in the 2-to-1 column normally. That's Highland Woods. Highland Woods, 2-to-1, 1, 2, 3, 4. That puts us in the 11 column, which is actually really good. So that's basically the 6-to-1 column. There is a remainder. I am doing multiple formations. I'm not using this guy, so it's only a -1, so that makes it a 0. And a lot of these guys are halved because they're mechanized infantry attacking into Highland Woods, so it's being overstacked really makes a difference. So we'll go ahead. I think those are all, we're attack 3 hexes, so I think that's a -1. I don't think there's any special, oh, there's an airfield. So that gets us back to 0 again. So it's a straight up die roll since I'm not using anything. That's a 7, that's pretty bad. But we are on the 6-to-1 column in Highland Woods. So that is 2 step losses for the defender and 1 step loss for the attacker. So first step loss has to come from lead unit, so he takes 1. And then only 1 MSU could defend, so the other step loss comes from him. They do not have steps, so that's eliminated. And did I get a retreat? No, there was no retreat. So that didn't quite work out the way I wanted it to. However, this was the lead unit here, so he's going to take a step loss. So I really kind of wanted them to retreat, but honestly it really doesn't matter, because I think as the South Koreans slash allies, in light of what happened in Seoul, I think it's basically going to be a fighting withdrawal. It's going to be a big retreat. These guys are going to retreat anyway during their movement phase. They're going to try to get over to Seoul. And yeah, it's still not going to look good. These guys are definitely going to get out of here, but I was really kind of hoping for a little bit better result right there. But, you know, hey, that's kind of what happens. Had they had to retreat, their only options would have been to go here or to go here. So they could have gone here because they would have been extremely overstacked. But because there's friendly units there, there's no zone of control. So if you retreat into a zone of control, then I think you have to roll against efficiency, and then you take more step losses. But since there was no retreat, they don't go there. So that kind of worked out a little bit better for them, because all of these guys have now attacked. Well, with the exception of this one, but he's not gonna attack by himself. There's just not enough attack strength there. 1 brigade of armor, not gonna happen. If he's gonna attack anywhere, it'd probably be here. But there we go. There's this section right here. These guys are just kind of clinging on for dear life anyway, so not that big a deal. Let me see, and then let's see what we can see, what my viewfinder can see. So we can see these three. These are other potential attack sites. Most definitely that one right there. That one's probably going to happen. That one is obviously going to be overstacked as well, because there are 2 MSUs there. So that's one thing you don't think about very often, right? Is like converting a supply depot to MSUs. It's definitely going to, if you have other units in there. So a supply depot is only 1 stacking point, but the MSU is 2 stacking points. So a supply depot converts into 2 MSUs. So that really gets us a stacking point problem. So that's one thing that you might want to consider for future, and by you I mean myself and or anybody else that's playing this game. Like, hey, plan your retreats a little bit farther in advance. Get those supply depots out of there sooner if you don't want them captured or destroyed. So yeah, we're going to do this one here, here, and then I think you probably can't see that one up there. Nope. I think the only other attack we're going to do is going to be right here. I think what the North Koreans are going to do, because there's still enough stuff, there's still enough units in and around Seoul to make attacking for the North Koreans extremely difficult. So more than likely what's going to happen is obviously the Allies, like, there's no point defending this, right? This is a lost cause. So the Allies are definitely going to do, again, a fighting withdrawal. So the North Koreans are going to apply pressure, but not so much that it weakens their attack. Let the Allies retreat. Unfortunately, that's, you know, that can come back to bite you later on. But as of right now, the big thing is the North Koreans are just trying to gain ground. So we will see what happens later. So I've chosen not to conduct an attack here. I can't get good odds. These are, even though they're out of supply, they defend at full strength. So that's the big thing. And they're both 8. So that's 16. I just can't get good attack factors. This guy would be halved because he's armor. So can't get good attack factors there, so I opted not to attack. They're out of supply, so we're basically going to force them to retreat. They may be isolated because there's a Zok here and a Zok here. However, they can move, so they could go here or here. Probably would they would still definitely be out of supply, but I don't think they would be isolated if I could get them to here, because then they could trace supply. They could trace a line of communication far enough. I did conduct the attack here, and those guys were, that was a division. There was a division there. It was mechanized infantry. They got wiped out. So we took over that. That's a town, so that gave me, I think, another 4 VPs. We managed to, what did we do? These guys were already there. So we attacked this hex, which had basically this stack of guys. Let me see. Can we see that? Yes, we can. The screen times out. The little viewfinder on my camera times out, and, you know, sometimes I need to see that so I know if what I'm pointing at, you can, you know, you guys can actually see it. So anyway, this stack was here. We managed to get really good odds and force them to retreat. So that is an installation right there under a clearing marker. Not enough attack factors with these guys here to get this guy, and it's a city as well. So we can wait, well, we as in the North Koreans can wait them out, because honestly the advantage is very, very high. The advantage is in the North Koreans' favor. There we go. Find your words, Sean. Find your words. All right, so then the last spot is Seoul. So what do we have? We've got, really the only place that I was considering attacking was this spot right here. It's nothing but U.S. units. Total of 10 factors. Because that is marsh, this hex is marsh right here, the mechanized infantry and the armor is halved. All of this right here is mechanized infantry and armor, so it'd be like 2 to 1. The allies, of course, the U.S. units are very high efficiency ratings. I could probably use chemical weapons right there and reduce their efficiency ratings by 2, which would basically give me a +1 column shift, because they have efficiency ratings of 7. My best is this one, which is a 6. So it would be an efficiency rating of 5 if I use chem. I don't think it's worth it, because I think they get 3 VPs if I do that. I don't think I'm going to do that. Obviously, these guys are going to retreat, so I will let them retreat. So at least I would think that they're going to let them retreat. So that's it for the North Korean attack. Now it is the Allies movement and combat phase. I think I will do that, and then I will most likely end the game. We'll see where these guys retreat to, if they decide to do all that, and kind of give you a wrap up of the game, I think. So I've started to conduct the retrograde operations. That's the fancy term for retreat. So these guys have started pulling back. Mountains are defensible, not ideal where they really want to go, but that's basically, they're really their only choice, because North Korea, now you can see that that was probably a good choice to take that. These guys have probably been out of supply forever, but it hasn't really mattered, right? Because nothing's really been going on down here. The Allies haven't really tried to do anything. So that was probably, in retrospect, that was probably a good decision on North Korea's part. So we've got, what is that, 8th Corps and 2nd Corps trying to bug out. This, let me see if I can find a good spot to place that. So here we go. Here's Seoul. Here's ground zero, obviously. So in the rules, it basically says that ground zero is really the only hex that's kind of affected by it. I've decided to expand that a little bit. Now keep in mind, each hex is 7.5 miles. So from here, the center of this hex to the edge is 3 miles. So that's probably 7 miles to the hex. Now a nuclear blast, depending on the size or whatever, isn't going to go 7 miles. However, the hazardous effects of it, fallout and destruction of infrastructure and all that kind of stuff, will probably be pretty bad in all those areas. It's going to be chaos, right? So I've kind of extended the the zone around ground zero to, so you're, according to that little chit, it's a -2 efficiency rating. And then I think in this hex, it's a movement factor of +4, but I've done a +2 movement factor in the adjacent hexes. I've also declared that all of these hexes that are orange, you can't trace line of communication through that supply. So that's why you see so many out of supply markers for the allies, is because you really couldn't get any kind of supply to those guys. Obviously, I've moved them back. We were fortified up here, started to pull back. And of course, this presents its own problem, right? Is like we have to funnel guys, and of course, the North Koreans, they're over here, so they're kind of clogging up egress routes. So we're basically kind of funneled this way and then around that way. So I'm trying to make my stands at the, what river is that? Has that got a name to it? I don't see. Yeah, I don't see a name on that river anywhere. And yeah, I can't see a name on it. So I'm not sure what river that is, but I guess I could look on the interwebs and find out. But I'm not going to do that right now. So anyway, they're trying to make their stand along the river. We'll see. So that will, I don't think there's going to be any kind of attacking on the part of the Allies. There's really nothing. I don't see any kind of benefit to doing that. But that will end. That pretty much will end turn 7. Of course, I have to do isolation, reorganization, and all that kind of stuff. But that's it. And one thing I never did do is I never rolled to see if Taiwan decided they'd had enough and wanted to go ahead and get out of town. So we'll go ahead and roll on. I think it's a 4 or higher. Taiwan decides, you know what, we're done. So Taiwan basically surrendered too. So it looks like, so even if we were, let's pretend that the game didn't end in nuclear fire like it actually did. Vietnam surrendered, Taiwan surrendered, so China has accomplished the thing that they wanted to accomplish. And obviously North Korea was just a distraction in the whole thing, right? They were a pawn that China manipulated effectively, and it worked. So World War III, the Pacific Theater, victory does go to China in this particular case. Again, had we not ended in global thermonuclear warfare. So as it stands right now, if we do the hand wave and say that nuclear war didn't end everything, World War III in the Pacific goes to China because they took over, they successfully forced the Vietnamese to surrender, they successfully forced Taiwan to surrender, and of course it's nothing but a quagmire in South Korea. So I don't know how much longer I'm going to continue to play this, but we shall see.